Welcome to the StockMiner.com studios. I'm your StockMiner, Brian Johnson. We saw a gap down today, and then some, well, what appeared to be maybe some buying coming into the markets. Hard to know exactly what that was. Probably shorts covering. It could be one of a number of things. But point being, when I see stuff like this, usually indicates the end of a wave of some sort. So for you Ellioticians out there, maybe the end of a third wave today on a 1-2. This could be the bottom of 3. Maybe this is some sort of a consolidation before a move lower. Point being, I'm not convinced that we're not done with this move down yet. It's going to take a little bit of work by the bulls, especially back up and over this 20-day, for me to start thinking that maybe this is an ABC type of a correction as opposed to a 1-2-3. Still very early yet for you Ellioticians. That all makes sense. And if you don't understand Elliott Wave, well, that's okay too. Don't worry about it. Just know that we had our levels broken. We had the break of 10,500. We had the break of 10,400. These were the levels I was talking to you guys about getting short and or getting long back up here. We didn't see that happen. We saw this happen. So if you've been following along here at the StockMiner, you've been able to make some profits off these moves on more conservative entries. And that's what it's all about here. Biding your time, being patient, and then getting the profits when they're given to you. And look at this. How beautiful is this? Right down to the 50-day moving average. A gorgeous trade. So for those of you that got short below 10,500, maybe 10,400 up in here, this was a good first target area. Still be watching this close. Now we've got these overhead resistance or resistance areas to get through. That's why I'm saying maybe back above 10,450 or 10,500 gets me a little bit more, bullish in the short term anyway on the markets. But for the time being, I'm just going to go ahead and ride this bear for as long as it'll go. So if you guys are in this trade and want to be a little bit more aggressive with your stops, I put them right back up above here and see what happens. If not, you manage it yourself. Maybe you took profits at the 50. It's a good place to do it. So we've seen this move here. I was just never sold on it. Was waiting maybe for one more touch of this blue line at the most before we got that turnover and that rollover. And that happened obviously the day after Bernanke spoke. So what we're seeing now in the markets is this gap down and this move back up. So where are we at? We don't know yet. I really think this might have been the end of a wave 3. Sure looks impulsive to me. And in that case, that means we're going to see a little bit more to the downside. So let's continue to kind of play it that way for the next, well, I guess we've got about a day to play it before the end of the week. And you can see here now that the NASDAQ has got itself back below this blue line. Remember this blue line that held 1, 2, 3, basically 4 times. I might have been able to kind of fudge with this line ever so slightly to make this a test of 4, but as it was, it finally failed. When it did, came back up, retested it, and plop, right to the downside. Very common to see this. You guys know I love watching these type of formations happen on the markets. If you are a subscriber, you know precisely what we were watching and exactly when we were getting long and short in this particular move. It worked out beautifully. So here we have the move down, then followed by another gap down. This is a lot of selling going on, especially in the overnight markets. Look at that. Now this was met by, like I said, either short covering today, taking some profits from way up here, and or maybe a little bit of buying in here. But we consolidated most of the day. If you didn't get in on that first hour or two of the day, it really wasn't much for you to do the rest of the time. But we are coming now back up into a little bit of overhead resistance here. And we'll see if this move by the bears actually follows through tomorrow to the downside and or the bullish push up to end the week. And some of that might be indicative of the weekly. Look here, we closed at 1832 and the weekly is 1826. So it is above the 50 week and it's going to want to hold there. Matter of fact, if the bulls can have their way, they're going to maybe want to try to get above this blue line for the week. That would be a good place for the bulls to settle and would certainly not do anything to hurt the bull case if it could get just up and above at least this blue line right now. Based on what we're seeing, the volume's only been okay this week. So while we have had some good moves, hasn't been necessarily super strong volume. The trading day, I mentioned there would be a trading day this week. It was obviously yesterday. Very, very strong selling coming in yesterday, but no real follow through today by the bears. SPX on a 60-minute also wandering around this little area down here, but beautiful trades below 1100 and then again below the 1090-ish area got you back into here. You saw the buying come in or whatever it was this morning as it bounced, and then a little consolidation the rest of the day. So I'm not sold on this move at the beginning of the day being buying, guys. I'm not so sure it wasn't just some profit takers down here. And so based on what I'm looking at here, that's why I'm not completely sold on this being completely done from a bear side. Now, if we did see a move up tomorrow, my guess would be maybe up into this area here. I don't know if I would expect to see it go much higher than this to close the week if it moves up. If it does and can get back above 1100, now maybe the bulls have something to ride here coming into the end of the week and the beginning of next week, which is, yeah, ultimately it is options expiration week. So we'll be watching all of that closely. The move to the downside would only help the volatility coming into next week. So a very interesting scenario playing out as we enter options expiration week. Now, coming up into these moving averages are also not bad places to maybe look for. If you're long, if you're trying to bottom feed down here and you're actually long the market and it gets back up into here, that might be a good place to start looking at taking a little bit of profits. And or if you're not short and you see a lot of weakness up in this area, also good places to look for a little bit more of a short position now. We'll see if that plays out into the end of the week. I'm very curious to see how the end of the week wants to close because that will make a difference in what our weekly charts look like. Notice the huge rundown yesterday where right to the 50. How do you get past it? Well, you gapped right down into this minor support I have down here, and it ran up from there only to finish just kind of a spinning top doji on the day, giving us basically what? Yeah, indecision. There isn't wasn't a lot of movement one way or the other. No one wanted to make a move, kind of waiting for the first person to tip their hand, and we didn't see anybody tip their hand necessarily here towards the end of the day. SPX on a weekly, this is it right here. We're down below now the 20 and the 50 again, coming back to retest this blue line. Looks like it's certainly a possibility at this point, and that is still right down here near the 1060, 1050-ish area. I talked about this even yesterday. And you'll want to be watching those levels closely, especially if we reach them sometime tomorrow or get close to them. VIX on a daily as well. It was up.